Hi there, welcome back to the Budget Mechanic. I'm so glad you've come to join us again. If you're new here, welcome. This is a place where we discuss all things budget to help you gain better control of your money and hopefully then get better control of your life. Today, what we're going to talk about is buy now, pay later and the evolution of them. As I was doing the research for this video, I've really found out that there's been a lot of changes in buy now, pay later, even from when I've used them a couple of years ago. And some of the things I found surprised me. And so I wanted to really share those learnings with you in hopes that it will help make you better informed on what they can and can't do or the risks of them. Let's talk a little bit very quickly about the history of buy now, pay later. Originally, buy now, pay later were layaways at companies. So you would go into the store, you would choose your item, and they would lay it away in the back of the store, and you'd make an agreement to pay so much every week or every 2 weeks. And then at the end of that time, once you've made all your payments, you would receive the item. So you wouldn't pay up front and get it. You would have to make all your payments and then receive the item. And then eventually some of those stores evolved and they moved into a store credit card or a third-party retailer, and they would offer it. So that's something that I did. I bought some furniture. It was a buy now, pay later. So I did this once too with furniture. For that option, it was pay it in 12 months, and all I had to do was make the payments. And what I had chosen to do is make regular payments, and so that everything was paid off, because in a lot of those cases, if you didn't pay it at that time, the interest would be retroactive back to the original purchase, making the problem really big because you'd have a huge amount of interest that you would have on those. As credit cards became more prevalent, the layaways and those buy now, pay later kind of evolved down, not used as much because people could use their credit card, make the purchase, have the item right away, and then make their payments, and the company got their money up front from the credit card. And so that's how we've evolved. So now there's been an evolution of the buy now, pay later companies. You may have seen some of them online. They are PayBright, Afterpay, Klarna are some of the more popular. There's a lot of other ones that are out there. And what these buy now, pay later do is they partner up with the merchant and they offer a specific agreement to that merchant. PayBright could offer services to 3 different merchants, and that agreement will be different for each retailer. So think about it in similar terms to any of the meal delivery services, because a lot of people have seen those. Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats, where one restaurant says no fee for the delivery, another will say a fee, and the third one could say there's a fee unless you make a minimum payment, make a minimum purchase, we won't charge you a fee. So the same with these buy now, pay later, they've got a different offering based on that merchant and what works for them. When you go, and a lot of these are based online, you go do your shopping, and when you get to the checkout, it's offered to you. So when you go to the checkout, you normally pay 25% of the purchase. So if you have a $100 purchase, you pay $25 up front, and then you make 3 equal payments of $25 over 2 weeks. That's the most popular option, is to pay in 4, and then you're done. If there's no fee to set up the account or interest, you will be paying the same as cash for it. And so that's how they work. So when you use them, no problem. If you run into problems though, you can have a lot of issues. And so what are some of the pitfalls that happen with these buy now, pay later? And this is really what I want to get into, because I don't think people understand that quite yet. So the first thing we'll talk about is impulse shopping. So a big thing that buy now, pay later does is it changes the psychology of the shopping for the consumer. So instead of seeing an item that's $400 and I have to pay out $400, I see 4 payments of $100. And my brain does tricks and says, hey, that's not as much of a load on your budget. You can handle those 4 payments of $100. And so it makes it a lot easier to make that purchase. So the other part of it is, so merchants are seeing a 10 to 40% increase in their sales and the conversion. And conversion means that when somebody puts something in their shopping cart online, instead of abandoning it, 10 to 40% of the time more, they're going to make that purchase. You could end up with a lot of purchases that you didn't intend to make. So the second thing related to it is managing your payments. So just like I mentioned earlier, each agreement is its own separate item. Every time you make a purchase, that's its own separate agreement too. So if I go to 3 different retailers in a day and make 3 purchases, now instead of having one payment, so I'd have 3 $25 payments due potentially at different times, and that can be very difficult to manage. There was a study done where 43% of consumers in the US that are using these services actually ended up incurring late payment fees or interest because they lost track of the payments and not that they didn't have the money. So managing those payments can be really difficult. And the other thing is you could pay a late fee to the buy now, pay later because you didn't meet their agreement. The other thing is if you've lost track and you then incur a non-sufficient fund or an SNSF charge in your bank, you could be paying a fee there as well. And so you can get hit with fees on both sides, from your bank for pulling more money out than you have, or if you're using your credit card for exceeding your credit card limit, and then again on the buy now, pay later side for missing a payment. The third thing that I saw that shocked me, and it probably shouldn't, but for some of these buy now, pay later, you can actually set up your credit card as the payment option for your agreement with the buy now, pay later company. So why is this not a great idea? Well, if you're trying to avoid interest and you haven't got your credit card debt under control, and now you've used your buy now, pay later, you could be increasing your credit card debt significantly and actually losing the purpose of the buy now, pay later to pay no interest. You could also go beyond your credit limit if you're not paying attention, again incurring more fees. Don't use your credit card to make your payments for these buy now, pay laters. It's using one credit instrument to pay another. The fourth issue with these buy now, pay later that you need to be aware of is that because most of these smaller ones that are under $1,000 that are pay in 4, they're not reported on your credit report, and so you're not building credit with those. So that is something to consider. It's not a huge negative, but it's just something that you might think you are, but you're not. The fifth thing on these buy now, pay laters that you should be aware of is refunds. So because these companies are not regulated in the same way as credit card companies, in order to do any refunds or get a refund, you actually have to go through the merchant that you bought from and make sure that they confirm back to the buy now, pay later company that you have returned the item and it should be refunded. And so that can create a level of frustration and things to deal with because you have to go and make sure that they're talking together properly. That can be a hassle to deal with, unlike with a credit card company, that if you dispute the transaction, the credit card company stops the payment and then you can sort it out through there. With all that in mind, what are some things to think about that you can use to mitigate those potential pitfalls? Number 1, read the terms. Know any fees. Know if there's any interest. Know the exact schedule, the exact amount. What happens if you can't pay? Can you contact them and ask for an extension on it? What happens if you have a late payment? Are there fees or interest charged for that? Is your account put into suspension to make further purchases? Just make sure you know everything there is to know about that agreement. Number 2, check your budget. Check your budget is just such a key thing because really you should be making decisions on what you can buy based on your budget and not on the credit that's available to you. Because regardless of what kind of credit it is, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. One thing that you could do is go to your budget, set it up, save that money, and then make the purchase. It's a delay in gratification, absolutely, but way better, and you'll own that product outright. You won't have it sitting over your head, and maybe in the meantime you'll decide you don't want it. The third thing is, if you do decide to incorporate, so read those terms, you've checked your budget and you still want to go ahead, make sure that once you actually push yes and you've agreed to those terms, to update your budget and incorporate those known payments coming out. I've shown you guys YNAB, You Need a Budget, which is a budgeting app. It's great, and you can really incorporate those in there to help keep track and make sure that you are going to pay them on time and not incur any fees or anything. But whatever your budgeting system is, do make sure that you've incorporated that. That's all I've got today on the Buy Now, Pay Later. I hope that this has been a really great starting point for you to learn more about Buy Now, Pay Later and do your own looking into it and see if they work for you or avoid them like the plague. It's all up to you, because it's all your budget, your decisions. But the more informed you are, the better decisions you can make. So if you thought this video was helpful, do subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm to get this information out to more people as well. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.